Hello, welcome to She Became Visible and Fitness Friday. Today, we're going to be talking about fitness for women or anyone in general over the age of 50, primarily even over the age of 60. And I'm going to be highlighting someone that I have found that I love almost as much as I love Dr. Stacy Sims. But what I love about her as an orthopedic doctor, she is really concentrating her knowledge and her sharing with orthopedic care, which is bones, right? And one of the biggest problems or concerns that women have as they age is their bone density. And oftentimes, the remedy for women who are losing bone density is a pill. Just take a pill. And what they have found, and I talked about this on one of my other podcasts, is that this medication is actually doing more harm than good. And if any of you who are maybe over the age of 50 have been to the dentist lately, you may have been asked if you're taking this particular bone density medication because it really affects all of the bones in your body, including your jaw. And so this could curtail any kind of dental work that you might be planning because of the fear of actually breaking your jaw. And so it's really, I cannot emphasize enough the need to try to stay away from medications because all medications have side effects. And I'm not saying that don't ever use any medications, but I'm saying that try to stay away from them if possible. And as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we came back from New York and I developed a sinus infection, which I've never had in my entire life, and which frightens me because I'm like, oh, is this one of the side effects of getting older? But I was able to take an antibiotic, and within 7 days, it was finally gone after having it for over 20 days. So I'm not saying that all medication is bad, but you have to be aware of the side effects of any medication that you're taking. So let's get started today. We're going to be talking about movement, and we're going to be talking about bone density and the aging process today. And so let me start out. I want to start it out with this because this says everything right here.
Now, like I said, if you haven't got any hand weights at home, that's fine. Gareth's not going to be using hand weights. You can follow his demonstrations. It is going to be the same movement, just without the hand weights, okay? All right, so the first one we're going to do, I've got to double check what it is. We're going to start with our bicep curl. So palms facing out, elbows tucked in, and we're going to bring our hands up to our shoulders. Let's go. Just go to your own pace because we have got 5 hand weight exercises in a row. Good work.
Let me fast forward this just a smidge. Oh, we're still doing bicep curls. Wow. Okay, we're going to do a lot of those. High repetition, low weights. That's what he's teaching.
3, 2, 1. And then relax off. The next one we're going to go into is a front raise. So we're going to come down, up to shoulder level, and back down. Again, go to your own pace. Nice and slow and controlled movements.
Okay, so the reason why this bothers me is because this is touted, and this whole series that they do is for exercise for people over 60. Now, at 71, I find that extremely frightening that people who are 60 are having to sit on a chair and use a 2-pound weight. Now, let me make something else very clear. I am not disputing that you have to start somewhere. Everything, any new thing that you do, you're going to start out slowly, small, and work your way up. That's true with anything, any talent, any hobby, any sport. You know, you don't start out by running a marathon, right? You start out with 1 mile and then you work up to 2 miles. And so I'm not saying that there is not some benefit for people who have never exercised in their lives. They have never, I have a hard time believing no one's ever picked up 2 pounds, because that's pretty much a gallon of milk. I think a gallon of milk might even be more. But it's the fact that doing something as simple as a bicep curl with a 2 pound weight repeatedly is considered exercise. Now, again, I'm not talking about people who have never left the Bark Lounger, okay? If you have never done anything, especially for the last 20 years of your life, let's say at the age of 40, you had a job where you sat behind a computer, you sat, then you got into your car, and then you went home and you sat in your Barca lounger and watched TV, and then you went to bed. And you did that, then, and you didn't feel as though that was really inhibiting anything. But now, if that's all you've ever done, and now you've reached 60 and you're starting to have mobility problems, yes, maybe this is where you want to start. But the idea that this is an exercise program, my problem with it, and I hope you understand what I'm saying, again, everyone has to start somewhere. But the problem is, this is touted and taught and advertised as exercise for people over 60, which means they never leave that. They will continue to do the chair exercises. They will go to the gym with their girlfriends for the silver session that they have at the local gym, and they never go past what they're doing. So there has to be a beginning, but then there has to be an increase. And the problem with the mentality is, what you're saying to people is, if you're over 60, this is all you can do. So let me start out by sharing some wisdom from Dr. Wright. This is Dr. Vonda Wright, and she is the doctor and the orthopedic surgeon that I'm going to be highlighting today. So let me share her wisdom with you.
Say things like mobility is medicine, movement is medicine. It's because there is this phenomenon, and I wish I had made this up, called sedentary death syndrome. It is the 33 chronic diseases that kill us in this country. It's everything you've thought of: heart disease, brain disease, stroke, diabetes. All of those 33 chronic diseases that people die of are directly treated by moving. Because if you have high blood pressure, you'll take a pill for that. If you have cardiac disease, you'll take a pill for that. If you have dementia, you could take a pill for that. One pill, moving your body, is the medicine that positively affects them all.
Okay, so, and granted, I'm not saying that there wasn't movement in this example, but it's not enough movement, and it's not functionary movement. And I haven't watched all of these videos from this gentleman in England, but moving is the most important thing that you need to start out with. So if you have lived a life behind a computer, at a desk, in your chair at home watching TV, to your car, to your bed, if this has been the extent of your mobility or your movement, then you have to start out by moving your entire body, which is taking a walk. That has to be where you start out. Now, every exercise that this gentleman was showing is an exercise that everyone does. If you're trying to build muscle, you're doing front raises, you're doing bicep curls. But I don't think the form was very good on his front raises. I think that could cause some shoulder issues for people, especially at that age, and if they've never moved before. So I think sitting in that chair may have prevented a good form. And again, my problem is that he doesn't move past that. And I will say that because I see people going over to the gym and they're taking, say, the aquatic class. And this is their exercise. Every single day, they go over to the swimming pool and they get into the water and they do the exact same exercise, which is not creating any tension or pressure on your bone. So it's not increasing your bone density. So the aquatic exercise that they tout for people over a certain age has benefits, but what they've done is maybe you're trying to increase your movement after some kind of surgery or injury, or maybe you're suffering from arthritis and you have joint pain. And so this is a beginning. But what happens is it doesn't go anywhere from that. It doesn't start out with that and then move on to the floor. You never get out of the water. And the reason for this is because it's easy. And people enjoy this and they love the idea that they can say that they go to the gym and they exercise every day, but it's easy. And unfortunately, if you want to build bone density, it has to be hard. And isn't that the truth on all things that we want to improve in our lives? It has to be difficult. So let me play another clip from Dr. Vonda Wright.
What's critical for long-term function is being able to stay upright. So it's all great that you're making big arms and have upper body strength, can do pull-ups and lift your suitcase above the airplane.
Thanks.
But what you really want to do when you're 97 is walk anywhere you want to, go up and down the stairs, drive any car you want to, and that takes lower body strength. So all your biggest muscles in your body are below your belly button. So if I were you and had all this trajectory of time, I would work equally as hard on my glutes, my quads, my hamstrings, my calves, every muscle below your body. But not only would I work on my strength to get bigger, but I would focus on power. And those are different lifting techniques, right? The hypertrophy aspect of growing big muscles because they look really great. You do.
Okay, so that was a short. This was an interview that she did with Stephen. I don't remember his last name, but the podcast is called Diary of a CEO. And I love his podcasts. He has people with complete different genres of expertise. But I love his format. And it seems like every single podcast that I watch, Diary of a CEO, I learn. And I love what Stephen was saying to her. The reason why this was her reaction was because Stephen was saying to her, I like the look of a, big upper body. And for men, that's true. They want the big upper body, so they don't work their lower body. And so you'll see jokes on TikTok or other things like that, where they'll show these great big men and with chicken legs, right? Because they don't want to work the lower body. And a lot of that has to do with form. And so that you have to be very careful when you're working your lower body that you don't injure your back. And there are a lot of back injuries because people don't use the form that is correct. And so they'll have a tendency to pick up a barbell with their back rather than using their legs. And for women, I want to say to you, the reason why men like to use their upper bodies is because that is where their strength is centered. But for women, our strength is centered in our lower bodies. And that's why you'll see things on TikTok or other things, other social media sites that will show certain exercises that women can do that men can't physically do. And it's just because of the way we're built. So for men, it's easier for them to do pull-ups and chin-ups and big heavy bicep curls and things like that. But it's not as easy to do the quads and the glutes and the hamstrings. And so we all want to go to where it's easier. That's just human nature. But I love that she said that. But isn't that important what she said? At a certain age, it's more about standing up straight and being able to walk. And I have to tell you, we live in two places where there is a high concentration of elderly people. We live in Northern Scottsdale, which is the snowbird capital of the world. I don't know if that data is correct, but it seems as so. And so there are a lot of retired elderly people. We live in a golf community. So there are a lot of older people there. So I have never seen so many. When we moved to Arizona from Oregon, I had never seen that many old people in my life. And so now I'm surrounded with these people. And I am absolutely amazed at watching people get in and out of their cars at the movie theater or at the grocery store, and or when I have gone to events to watch my grandchildren, and they're not able to get down the stairs in a theater or to in an outside stadium, they can't get up and down the stairs, and they don't look that old, but the mobility is keeping them from being autonomous and individuals, and it's just not allowing them to do the things that I'm sure they would love to be able to do. I would be so disappointed if at my age, with my grandchildren ages, my grandchildren are 22 to 6. And I want to go to their events. I want to go to the football games and the baseball games and the dance recitals. And I want to be able to get up and down the stadium seats at the football stadium. And so it would break my heart if I wasn't able to do that because I was either wheelchair bound or just physically couldn't do that. So what she's saying about this is so important. And now, so referencing back to the first video I showed you, the fact that they sat down in their chair or they were leaning on a chair just to simply do ankle. He started out by just doing ankle movement or kicking, slowly kicking back your knee, and that was how he warmed up. But there was no actual large movements, especially for the lower body. And so I love that Dr. Vonda brought this out. So let's go to another wonderful, informative short.
Have to do that for 30 seconds. That will burn 40% more fat than even high intensity interval training.
Really?
So it begins with
Dr. Vonda Wright is a renowned orthopedic surgeon and a pioneering researcher in mobility and aging.
Through simple methods, she enables people to maintain their strength all the way through till their later life.
we have no excuse until our mid-70s for slowing down. These are MRI slices of a 40-year-old athlete. We have beautiful muscle architecture, but if we sit around for 35 years and have a desk job and we don't go move our muscles, this is what happens.
Jesus, my God.
But this is a 74-year-old who had just invested in their mobility 4 to 5 times a week. So if you're an 80-year-old consistently lifting weights, you are functionally as strong as a 60-year-old person who doesn't.
But I worry about joint pain. Is joint pain inevitable?
It is not. But one reason people have pain is because of how much we weigh. Small changes in our total body weight can have profound effects on the joint pain we feel. Let's say this rock is 1 pound. If you gain 1 pound, you would think that this is all the amount of pressure you're going to feel. But because of the mechanics, what you actually feel is the weight of these bricks. So you think gaining 10 pounds doesn't mean much, but imagine gaining 100 pounds of pressure. So how should you be investing in your mobility every day? There are 4 components that we should try to find time for. Number 1 is...
Quick one before we get back to this episode. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. 2 things I wanted to say. The first...
Going to go past this because he's asking for subscribe and like.
Well, because what that our brain tells us, we know this. You've had many discussions about the connection between our brain and our body. Our brain will believe whatever we tell it. And if our brain thinks that, oh, sometime 63, a light bulb goes off and we go from youthful vigor to aging and decline, well, then we start believing that about ourselves. And you know, there's a concept now that I work with all the time that really examines the difference between life expectancy. In the UK, life expectancy right now is 81. Unfortunately, in the United States, it's 77.6. From birth, babies born now have a life expectancy of that much. Our health expectancy, our health span, the amount of healthiness we have is only about 63.
Okay, so we're going to go through some more of this interview that she did with Stephen. But I think that's so important and I heard another statistic that was very similar to what Dr. Wright is saying, is that even though we're living longer now because of science and modern medicine and things that we've learned, it doesn't mean that our quality of life is better. So yes, we might be living to 88 where before people died at 40, but is the quality of life better? And so what Dr. Wright is talking about is that even though we might live to 77, which is frightening since I'm 71, at 63, if it goes downhill fast, what is the quality of our life? So let's go on and listen to Dr. Wright.
So that gives us a huge runway to change the trajectory. And it also tells us that we're not dying at 63. We're dying on average at 81. So we can do everything we possibly can in those 20 years. And we also know that 70 to 80 to 90%, depending on who you believe, of our health and aging is predetermined by our lifestyle choices, not the genes we inherit. So my mother is very thankful that I stopped blaming her for all the health things that go on. But each and every person has the ability to live outside of their genetic predisposition. And that is a very hopeful message that can pivot your mindset virus.
Okay, so and I want to talk about that some more too, because this is also a misconception that we are genetically, and any of you that have done ancestry.com, you may have gotten some medical or hereditary type illnesses that are passed down genetically, right? And so, like, for example, in my family, macular degeneration is something that is passed down, and every single one of my aunts and my mom have suffered with macular degeneration. So that's something that I'm concerned about and I'm aware of, and I try to eat accordingly. The other thing that my family suffers from is obesity. But the reality is, my mom and her sisters, my mom was born in 1932. Her sisters were born in the 20s, in 1920s, because she was the seventh out of 8 children. And so, so if you're figuring women that were after World War I, after World War II, they didn't have fast food. They didn't have the processed food that we have. And so when I go back and genetically look at all of my aunts in their wedding photos or their photos taken with their family or as children, none of them were obese. And yet, because of in the 1960s, when they came out with a lot of processed food, every single one of them, when they died, the only one that wasn't, which is ironic, is my aunt. The oldest child in the family died thin. Now, she didn't think she was thin, and she had a little body dysmorphia. And I'm not saying she didn't have a little bit of an eating disorder, because she did, but she was very vain and very conscious of her looks. And as she aged, she got the middle spread. And she tried so hard to diet that off because she did not have the knowledge of her hormones. And so she got the belly, and she got thick around here. And so she was kind of often starving herself, trying to lose weight, trying to get back that waist that she had when she was younger, and not knowing that it wasn't the food that she was taking in. It was her lack of mobility, and it was her hormones. And how unfortunate for her. So you have to look at, genetics will tell you maybe how tall you are or your bone structure. And, genetics will give you the color of your eyes or the color of your hair, but it doesn't mean you have to be obese. It doesn't mean that you have to suffer with arthritis. Even though you have a genetic tendency towards that, there are things that you can do. So I love that she said that. So let's listen some more.
I took the top sort of illnesses and diseases, things like heart disease, lung cancer. I can't even pronounce this one. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease.
Yeah, COPD.
Strokes, lower respiratory infections, Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes. I can't pronounce this one either. Colorectal cancers?
Colorectal cancers.
I nailed that. Breast cancer and prostate cancer. And I got the average ages that people typically get them. Then I weighted it by the amount of people that die from each of those diseases, with heart disease being the most popular. And it did actually come up. I used ChatGPT. I'm pretending I did this math myself. It came up that 62.94 years old is the exact age where, on average, I'm going to get one of these, and I'm going to potentially die from one of these.
Those are when they manifest. You may have them before them.
So they're not going to...
Maybe you never knew it, because I have people who say to me when I ask them their health history, what medical problems do you have? And they're like, I don't have any, only because they've never been to a doctor. Or maybe they've been diagnosed, but they haven't gotten so bad that they're not spending 3 days a week in the doctor's office. Or maybe they are sick, those three categories, right? But your chat GPT data is correct that is when it shows up. And what does that correspond to? That corresponds to when the average person retires. So just when you start thinking you have time to live the life that you envision, you're saddled with health problems that you have not taken care of. But think about it this way, talking about this mind virus and how we need to change it. We can talk about this, but I think that 40 is the most remarkable decade of a person's life. And it's also the time to adult, or get your proverbial expletive together. It's time to get it together from a health perspective.
Okay, I love that too, and I want to talk about that. So I love that. First of all, again, it's frightening, but we see that because we live in a golf community with people that are either just retiring, or they retired just a few years, and that's why they moved to Arizona, because now they want to play golf and they want to travel and they want a vacation. And 2 weeks after they retire, they get a little bit of a flu and they go to the doctor and they get diagnosed with cancer and they're dead. My husband hears this all the time. When he's playing golf, he will hear these stories from these men that say, my brother just retired, or we just retired, and my wife was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and we had all these plans, our golden years. And so this is why I think there's this mentality that, oh, I'm 60, so I'm done. I'm not going to do anything. And it's because these aches and pains start coming up because of the lifestyle that we had in our 40s. And I agree with Dr. Wright. All of you women, if you haven't reached 40 yet, you need to look forward to that birthday. It is the best decade ever. It is remarkable what being in your 40s and then in your 50s, the best decades of your life. Your hormones change, your brain structure changes, and it's just absolutely amazing. All right, let's go on.
Well, between 40, if you're just noticing your health at that time because maybe you've been working so hard and you never noticed it before, or you're raising other people, or whatever the circumstances are, between 40 and 63, you have time to course correct.
Yes.
But if you decide at 63 to pay attention, it is much, much, much harder.
Yeah.
And so, part of my mission, you asked me why I wake up every morning to change the way we age in this country, is to not only take care of people in my demographic, my middle-aged demographic, but to really get to my millennial children and my millennial nieces and nephews to say, you have such control of your health if you just look up and pay attention.
What's your academic education? Can you run me through your sort of qualifications and how that pivoted and turned throughout your career?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to stop that, and then I will take Dr. Wendy off the screen for just a second. So going back to what Dr. Wendy was saying, let me show you this. Oh, let me get rid of that. Go away. Bye-bye, Steve. Okay, so let me go back and show you this. Oh, where is it? Hello. Why can't you see it? There we go. I heard a doctor explain that women in perimenopause want to burn their world to the ground because our people-pleasing hormones during our fertile years disintegrate into GTF, away from me hormones. So what they're basically saying is your estrogen drops and your desire to please people. Oh, here we go. Let's bring this back. Your desire to please people goes away. And as Dr. Wright was pointing out, you're spending all this, your 20s and 30s, and you're taking care of other people, and you're taking care of little people, and you might even be taking care of your parents. And all of a sudden you start going through perimenopause, or maybe you've even reached menopause, your estrogen has dropped, and those people pleasing things go away. And all of a sudden you're like, get out of here. Get away from me. I have things I want to do. And it's beautiful. It's meant to be that way. And part of my desire and my goal with She Became Visible is to enlighten women that there is a reason why our bodies, I have 3 little statues. I wish I would have brought them with me to show you, but it's the maiden mother crone statues, and it's beautiful. There's a reason why we have this strong maternal instinct, this strong desire to get married and have babies. And then we go through our maternal time and where we're nurturing, and if we don't have children of our own, we're nurturing other people's children. It's just what we're made to do. And then that time goes away and our brain and our hormones go, it's your turn. It's your turn now. And so what is frustrating is systems that are set up to keep women in a certain stage of their life, which is the nurturing mother stage. They say to women, no, 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 that's your only purpose. You can't leave that stage. You must nurture for the rest of your life. And so women accept that if they're in a very fundamental type system, and they never, ever reach this 3rd stage, which is the crone stage, where you say, thank you, let me share my wisdom with you, but not every minute of my life. So it's a beautiful stage, and and that's our goal, is to, I might make that crone my new logo because I love that idea so much. So let's listen to just one more thing from Dr.
What women have been
Wendy.
taught to do over time. Oh, don't hurt yourself. You don't want to get too big. Pick up the mamby-pamby pink weight, lift it 20 times 4 sets. And I call that garbage, because you got to think about, why are we lifting? We are lifting for longevity and for power, because I am not on my watch going to allow anybody, because I haven't said it, to become frail and not to be able to hold up their own body weight and fall from a standing position in their kitchen and break their hip. 50% of them will not return to pre-fall flexion, and 30% will die. Not on this orthopedic surgeon's watch. So when I tell you to lift heavy in a certain way, it's because let's not spend garbage workouts. Here's what women have been taught to do over time.
Okay, I absolutely love that. And let me give you an example of what she's talking about. And I'm seeing this a lot. And it's frustrating because it's not that they're wrong. It's that it cannot be the forever exercise. And I feel like these women are touting this as this is all you need to do. And what Dr. Wendy is saying is this isn't going to help your longevity, because you have to develop power. And it is really in the strength, and strength comes from building muscle. Let me show you an example of what Dr. Wendy's talking. So that's exactly what she's talking about. Every single one of those exercises is correct. I do every single one of those exercises with 35. Right now, I'm up to about 40 pounds. And so it's not that the exercise, the lunges, the side squats, the squats that she was showing, the front lunges with yes, those are all exercises. But until you increase the weight, you're not putting any pressure on your muscles. They're not going to grow. They're not going to be more powerful. Now, what you will become is maybe a little bit more mobile, flexible wise. And you might get a little bit of, for women that are naturally thin, women who have never exercised, but they don't have a lot of body fat, you might develop a little bit of what they call toning, but that's very rare for women that are fighting with their weight, or they have body fat that they need to lose. So I get frustrated when I see these women who are thin, and they're touting tone, and so they're using 2-pound, 5-pound weights, and they're just doing the arm circles, or they're doing and there's one on there right now that's like, if you do 100 of these a day, if you do 100 of these a day, and it's just deceptive, because you're not building muscle and you're not building strength. So that is basically my message for Fitness Friday on She Became Visible. And I just want to remind you that nothing that we do in life should or is easy. there's always a beginning, but then there has to be a middle, and then there is never an end when it comes to your health and your strength. So I really encourage those. And next week I have a couple of friends that are going to be joining me on Friday, and we're going to be talking about medical issues that they don't really talk about. Like Dr. Wendy or Dr. Vonda here is Dr. Vonda Wright is talking about just a kind of a norm. But there are exceptions to every rule. And if you have been diagnosed, like I have a friend that one of the people that's going to be joining me suffers from severe anemia. And it's like blood transfusion severe. And so her journey is different. And you have to take those things into consideration. The other friend that's going to be joining me next Friday has a heart condition. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I think she has a pacemaker. So she has other things she has to take under consideration. So we're going to be talking about that. So I want to make it clear that I understand that there has to be a beginning. And again, when I started exercising, I never exercised in my entire life. But when my fifth child was born and I had some baby weight that I wanted to get off, I saw a neighbor as I was standing at my kitchen sink and looking out the window. I saw my neighbor jog by, and she was a woman that was trying to lose some weight. She was not a small woman. And I thought, well, dang, if she can do that, I can do that. And I went out the next day and started to jog. And it took me a month to get up to a mile. But after doing that for a month, I felt so good that I joined a club. It was called Nautilus, where we were living in Oregon at the time. And I started taking step classes and all kinds of fun activities. So this is at the age of 30 that I did this. And so I have stayed active since I was 30 years old. And I remember we were at a family activity, and I have a younger brother, and he's about 8 years younger than I am. And we were all sitting on the lawn. We were waiting for the 4th of July fireworks. And I went bike riding. We were riding up and down the street with my grandkids and my niece and my nephew. And my brother said to me, I want to do that. I want to be like you when I'm 60 years old. And I was like, well, you better start now. And that's the message that I have, is that you can't look at these things and think, I want to do that someday. Because if you don't do it now, you won't do it someday. So that's my message. Thank you for joining me today. Please like and subscribe and share this with your sisters, your aunts, your friends, and let's talk about becoming visible in all areas of our life, not just in ways of our occupation or politically, but in our physical health and in our mental health and all areas of life that make us fabulous women. So thanks for joining me today, and we will talk again next week. See you on Mormon Monday.